All right, welcome. I'm going to cover today the general club and organization policies and info. So this is helpful for those really engaged students who are maybe chair of a committee. This is also helpful for president and vice president roles. So this presentation really is important for almost about anybody in your club if they're taking an active role. This year with the COVID-19 risk that poses to our campus community, we're requiring you that you read the COVID-19 policies and guidelines for the group. We will also talk about them when we have the kickoff meeting the first week of school. General expectations. You need to be in good academic standing, disciplinary standing, and have at least a 2.5 cumulative GPA to step in the role of an officer position. If you are not, you can still be a general member, but you should not be stepping into that role. The club is responsible for the management of the leadership positions, the membership, and the organization through their engageDU page. Also, all groups have their constitutions that are on their site. If they ever need to amend those and review those are there for them. And if there's ever a dispute or some confusion, that is the document that we will go back to resolve those. Throughout the year, you'll need to complete a mid-year report in December and one at the end of April. Also, at the beginning of the year, we will want you to do an advisor agreement form, so that way you can make sure you're on the same page as officers with your advisor. General expectations for clubs and orgs. You need to go to your required events. Those are all listed out in your one-sheeter, but specifically for DU leads and leadership councils, one student can represent up to 2 organizations or clubs on campus. For other trainings, one unique member can only represent one club or org. Also, the participation in a club and org must be free for all students to join, with the exception if there's a national membership charge. All clubs and orgs need to re-register at the end of the academic year. Dominican will not tolerate any hazing or discrimination towards any campus community member. So please be aware that hazing is not allowed, nor discrimination based on somebody's race, color, gender, religion, national or ethnic origin, disability, age, marital status, sexual orientation, or based on the belief of a disability. Frequently asked questions. So if you want to bring somebody to campus, say a vendor, an artist, or for an online event, you would need that contract reviewed, approved, and signed by our office. So that means you cannot sign it. You need to bring it into our office. Can you show a movie or TV? That needs to be paid for. So again, you need to be submitting that into engageDU. We will help review. The average cost of blockbusters are anywhere from around $700 to $1,000. So pretty pricey when we want to make sure we're following copyright laws. Food on campus. Again, this year we're starting out not having food on campus, but we want you to submit that into the appropriate places when we do allow food. That means you need to submit that into catering on the appropriate timeline. If it's under $100 and non-perishable, you can buy that not from dining services. If it's above that, you would need a waiver. If you're ever going off campus after we allow folks to travel, after the COVID-19 risk is gone, you will need to submit waivers and turn that event information in, again, to be reviewed and approved. Another thing, clubs and orgs also ask questions about, can I get information? Can I send somebody? And again, this responsibility should be shared across the group. It should not just be the president or the vice president running around. We want general members. So you can send them. Again, they can represent 2 different clubs and orgs, and they can represent you at different trainings if there's a conflict for other people in other roles. Anytime that you need space on campus, that must go through engageDU and the Astra system by a student leader. Your advisor should not be submitting these. That is where we want your membership in your club to grow with responsibilities and having importance. So that is where we want all those types of informations and requests to be coming from the student leader and not your advisor. Say you can't access your student group email. We have created Outlook groups. Those are listed on your engageDU About section, and it should be on your homepage of engageDU. If you do not have the access to it, you need to talk to the president or the advisor. It is the responsibility of the club to manage who has access. Do they just want to use it for officers, or do they want to use it for everybody in their club? You should not then be creating duplicate Outlook groups. We don't want to cause confusion within the campus system, so we want you to use the one that is under the umbrella of our office. Submitting into engageDU. Anytime you're going to do something, whether it's an online event or in person, that needs to be submitted through engageDU. Or say just a general activity like a fundraiser, that needs to be reviewed by our office, approved, and on the appropriate timeline. So again, the basic timeline for a lot of things is 14 business days before, because we want to have one time to review it, time to approve, and time for you to market that event to make it successful. If you're ever needing space on campus, all additional needs, whether it's tech, setup, food down the road, that is where you need to operate also on that 14-day timeline of confirmed needs, so the campus community and the different faculty and staff can support that event appropriately. By waiting until the last minute, that not only causes you kind of issues with making sure you're doing things appropriately, but that jams up a lot of the staff's responsibility and workflow. So do be respectful of that and get things in on time. engageDU. Any harassment, vulgar language, copyright usage that is violating kind of the standards that we set, the club will be followed up with. Majority of the things on engageDU, if you're posting, that's going to come with a student's name, because again, you're logging into the system, and a timestamp. So you would be followed up and potentially go into the student conduct process depending on your inappropriate activity. Posting policy. All publicity from clubs and orgs are stamped in the CERC, Coghlan 040. Banners can be created. Those are the large butcher block banners that can be hung around campus. Flyers, when you're posting them on the corkboard, we ask that you're respectful of other people who have flyers up and try to find empty ones or pull down any flyers that are outdated and the event has passed. And banners should be hung in those 4 locations, but you should only be using masking tape. You should never be hanging things with Scotch tape, packing tape, any type of other tape, glue, anything. No, you should be using masking tape, and you can go to the CERC to check that out for no cost if you need that. If you're posting things on the bulletin board, that is the only time that you would be using a push pin and not tape on the bulletin boards. Publicity cannot be posted unless your event or activity has been approved in engageDU. So if your event has not been approved, please don't have somebody come down and have flyers already printed, because what if that space wasn't available? Or what if you need to move the date or something's not right? You're going to have wasted printing credit. So please do not do that. Publicity needs to state who is sponsoring the event and contact information. So please make sure you include that on there. Again, contracts, policies, if you're having anybody that you want to bring in, you have to submit that to our office. Again, we need to sign it. That can never be the president of the club, that cannot be the treasurer, that cannot be the advisor, because then you would have to take personal responsibility and not the institution. The institution takes responsibility when we as an office, Student Life, sign that document. And again, that needs to be fully confirmed and sent back to the outside individual 2 weeks prior. So everything has to be set. If you get under 2 weeks and your contract is not confirmed, your event date is going to get pushed back. So again, that's why we ask you at least 30 days in advance to get those contract needs in, so we can start that conversation and help you through that process. Fundraisers. You're always going to need to say what is the fundraiser for, especially being able to communicate it when it's an in-person event. If you're ever doing drives, so say you're doing a clothing drive or a canned food drive or Thanksgiving baskets, you need to make sure that one, that activity has been submitted for review and approval by our office, but also check if you're hoping to leave that box, that collection box in the library, or whoever is overseeing that general space that you hope to leave it in, they have to sign off on being comfortable with that happening. Groups can be a part of fundraisers, but annually funded groups cannot hold a fundraiser for themselves, because remember, they're already annually fundraised. Already annually funded. If they are wanting to fundraise for a good cause, for a nonprofit, again, that can be reviewed by our office by submitting into engageDU. Raffles and selling raffle tickets on campus, that is not allowed. All raffles have to be free to participate, and the raffle prize cannot be cash. It could be gift cards, it could be tickets to an event, it could be a new basketball, but it cannot be cash prize, nor can the raffle be a fundraiser in itself. That is not allowed. Bake sales. No student, staff, or faculty member can be baking stuff at home and selling it on campus. You need to purchase that from a restaurant or a store that's like, non-perishable is what's really recommended. And then you have to follow the food and safety guidelines that are in the handbook. Currently this fall, we're starting off not having those types of sales and activities going on because of the COVID-19 risk. Other food policies. If you're ever going to need food resources or requesting, you need to make sure you're following those policies in the handbook. You need to be reaching out to dining services for your catering order. If it's under $100 and non-perishable, you don't have to do a food waiver. If it's above $100 and say you want to go to the local donut shop and order $200 worth of donuts, you need to get them to sign off on waiver. Again, that all needs to be wrapped up prior to the event. We have guidelines such as making sure cold food is cold, hot food is hot, and that all gloves and serving dishes and utensils are needed to appropriately do that. Off-campus travel. Currently, we're starting this fall where that is not going to be allowed based on the COVID-19 risk. However, when we do allow it, you will need to submit all those activities. So say you're going to the local library to read to children, then you need to make sure that information is into engageDU. You'll be prompted with other questions, and then each individual participant will need to fill out a waiver and submit that into engageDU. Again, please follow the guidelines that are in the handbook, but will also remind you within the engageDU event form. And lastly, this is a big one, is that we have a ton of information on the student life involvement page on engageDU. If you go to the document section, there you can see it broken down to even more kind of organized folders for you, such as like general campus policies and guidelines, funding and accounting information, how to become a student org if you are wanting to start a different type of club. The Leadership Council will put our notes in that folder, and then also a lot of resources for planning and hosting events. So it is the responsibility as a student leader and especially an officer that you would be familiar with policies, know where to go to review those, and if you're ever confused or have doubt, that is when we want you and need you to reach out to Student Life. Thank you for listening to this video.